You're listening to the new WCEG Network on WCEG Click the live stream tab or watch us live on your smart TV, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn at WCEG Network. I'm Dr. Cassandra Wanzo, your show host of Mind Matters. We are the worldwide community empowerment group where we speak life into the community and we speak life into you. Subscribe free to our YouTube channel, WCEG Network. Like, follow, and connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We have new platforms. Download our free mobile apps, iOS, Apple, iPhone, iPads. Go to the Apple Store. Search WCEG Talk Radio. Apple TV. Search WCEG Network TV. Apple Watch. Search WCEG Network. Android mobile phones and tablets. Go to Google Play Store. Search WCEG Talk Radio. Last but not least, the topics and opinions are those of the show host and guests, and not WCEG Network. Thank you for your continued support. Our topic this evening is gun violence and mental health. Again, gun violence and mental health. When we focus on mental health as the cause of mass shootings, it diverts attention from the larger problem of gun violence in the United States. This myth further stigmatizes people with mental health problems, and in many cases, distracts from finding real solutions. Whenever there is a mass shooting, the first thing politicians say, mental illness. We need to strengthen our mental health system. The common perception that people with serious mental illness are dangerous is a myth. Most violence is not caused by mental illness. An FBI study showed that only 25% of mass shooters had a diagnosable mental illness. And in another study, it was 34%. And less than 5% of them had a record of something that would have disqualified them from gun ownership, such as an involuntary commitment to a mental health facility. If serious mental illness suddenly disappeared, gun violence would only decrease by 4%. Let me repeat that. If serious mental illness suddenly disappeared, gun violence would only decrease by 4%. More than 90% of violent incidents, including homicides, would still occur. The scale of gun violence in the United States is astonishing. Our nation's firearm-related civilian death toll over the past 50 years exceeds the number of soldiers who died in all of our wars combined. Let me repeat that. our nation's firearm-related civilian death toll over the past 50 years exceeds the number of soldiers who died in all of our wars combined. As I stated in our last show, the leading cause of death in the US for ages 1 to 18 is firearms. The leading cause of death for people 1 to 18 in our country is firearms. Number 2 is motor vehicles at 16%. Americans have more guns than anywhere else in the world. We have 120.5 firearms for 100 residents. 120.5 firearms per 100 residents. We are the only country in the world with more civilian-owned firearms than people. If mental illness isn't the cause, what is? Our last show, we talked about some of the factors that some of the mass shooters had. And so what we discussed last time, that these are the 5 main factors leading to school shootings. 98% had suffered a personal loss. 87% were victims of severe bullying, feeling humiliation. 81% had experienced a grievance. 78% had a history of suicide attempts or thought of suicide. 61% were out for revenge. And in that study, only 34% had received a mental health evaluation. So between 25 and 34%. But basically, what it leads to is, as a cause, is a combination of alienation, resentful anger directed at a dehumanized other. Let me repeat that again. A combination of alienation, resentful anger directed at a dehumanized other. It's a toxic stew of fear, paranoia, and distrust, leading to killing, this paranoia and killing. So I want to examine these recent episodes of what they're calling wrong place shootings. These shootings happened in less than a week. April 13th, in Kansas City, Missouri, a 5'8" 15-year-old Ralph Yarl was shot 2 times through a locked glass door. He was shot almost immediately by the 84-year-old male resident after ringing the doorbell. He was shot in the head and arm. Miraculously, he survived being shot in the head. He was trying to pick up his 2 younger brothers and had mistakenly gone to the wrong house. It was determined that there was a racial component in this case. April 15th, in rural upstate New York, 2 shots were fired from a porch at cars full of young people that had just turned around after looking for a party in the wrong driveway. 20-year-old Kaylin Gillis was killed by the bullet that struck the car driven by her boyfriend. April 18th, outside of Austin, Texas, 2 cheerleaders were shot in a grocery store parking lot. One of the girls, Heather Roth, had accidentally tried to get into the wrong vehicle. She and her teammate were both shot. Roth was treated at the scene. Her roommate, Peyton Washington, is still recovering in the ICU. And then also there was that incident in Gastonia, North Carolina, where a 6-year-old's ball accidentally rolled into the neighbor's yard. The neighbor ended up shooting the 6-year-old and her parents. Unless Americans are willing to get serious about modern day gun culture, the senseless shooting of innocent people in the wrong place at the wrong time will become the new norm. Just think about that. Unless Americans are willing to get serious about modern day gun culture, the senseless shooting of innocent people in the wrong place at the wrong time will become the new normal. We have become a shoot-first society with a culture of fear. There's fear-mongering, and what we have to blame for that is like some of the right-wing media are always involved in race baiting, fear-mongering, and that leads to paranoia and killing. More guns in more hands equals more deaths and more shootings. People are angry. And when you combine their anger with gun access, the result is needless shooting. We live in a country that has normalized gun violence through fear, through the gun culture, and the laws that allow it. What are some of the solutions? What can be done? In Australia, they used to have mass shootings, and in 1999, they enacted a national gun registry. All guns had to have a permit. They eliminated they have a ban on all assault-style weapons. People have to be relicensed, have classes in gun safety, and they have only had one mass shooting since the law was instituted in 1996. If only we Americans would look at what's worked. It's worked in Australia. Other things that would help would be a red flag law. What a red flag law does is allows a concerned person or people to make an appeal to a court to temporarily restrict someone's ability to purchase or own a gun when there is a concern for their safety or the safety of others. Another thing that would help is universal background checks. Background checks are the foundation of any comprehensive gun violence prevention strategy. Current federal law requires background checks by licensed gun dealers. It does not require background checks for guns sold by unlicensed sellers like non-dealers who sell guns at gun shows. This big loophole enables felons, those with domestic abuse and restraining orders, to buy guns, no questions asked. Another thing that would help is to eliminate what we currently have right now. Gun manufacturers have immunity from liability from a 2005 law signed by Bush. This law gives gun manufacturers and sellers and importers immunity from lawsuits. So we need to do away with that law. Another thing that would help is a ban on assault weapons. There was a ban in 1994 that was very effective, and it reduced the crimes with military assault weapons by 2/3. However, it expired in 2004. So we need to reinstitute that. I was really happy to hear that yesterday in the state of Washington, Governor Jay Inslee signed 3 major gun violence prevention bills into law. This is the state of Washington. The first bill, HB 1240, bans the sale of assault weapons in the state of Washington. Washington is the 10th state in the nation to take this historic, life-saving action. As we know, assault weapons are the gun of choice for mass shooters. The other 9 states that have bans on assault weapons are California, Connecticut, Delaware, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York. You see, Georgia's not among those, or it looks like none of the southern states. I mean, the gun violence is highest in the southern states. The other bill, he signed 2 other bills, which go into effect today. The other one, HB 1143, mandates a 10-day waiting period and safety training for all firearm purchases. This is also crucial to life-saving prevention that will reduce firearm-related suicide and accidents while ensuring responsible gun ownership. The third law that he signed was SB 5078. This ensures a pathway for victims and survivors of gun violence to hold industry leaders accountable for wrongful and dangerous business practices. We definitely need to enact something like that in Georgia. One of the things that I could never understand is here in the state of Georgia, in Kennesaw has a law on the books, and the law in Kennesaw states, every head of household residing in the city limits is required to maintain a firearm. Now, I don't know how they enforce that, but that is a law in Kennesaw, Georgia. So we know that gun violence can affect our mental health. Exposure to gun violence can leave a person feeling shocked, fearful, and deeply unsafe. Whether you're directly involved in an incident of gun violence, you're a witness to shooting, or hear about the events in the news, you can still become traumatized. You can develop symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, known as PTSD. Simply reading about mass shootings and gun violence in the news can make it hard for you to focus at work or school. What are some signs that you have been traumatized by gun violence? You can have physical or emotional symptoms. The physical symptoms of being traumatized by gun violence, your body can enter a state of hypervigilance and anxiety with symptoms such as chest tightness, dizziness, and rapid breathing. You can also experience cold sweats, trembling, aches and pains. Other physical symptoms can be unfocused thoughts. It can be difficult to concentrate when your thoughts are racing in a traumatic event. You might feel hypervigilant and looking for hidden dangers all around you. You can have changes in your appetite. You may overeat or lose your appetite, which can have a negative effect on your energy levels and mood. You can have changes in your sleep patterns, anxiety, nightmares, and flashbacks can impact your sleep quality, leading to oversleeping or daytime fatigue. The emotional symptoms of trauma can range from numbness to despair to anger. There is no right or wrong way you should be feeling. You may also experience disbelief. You might be shocked by gun violence, that you deny the horror of what happened. Persistent fear. You may feel easily startled when you hear loud noises, or you feel crippling anxiety where you're in a place that reminds you of the violent event. Grief. Many people feel deep sadness following a shooting, especially if lives were lost. However, you can also feel despair that safety measures failed, or someone would even attempt such an atrocity. Helplessness. You may feel unsafe and unable to protect yourself or your loved ones from future violence. You may even want to withdraw from society or take drastic measures to shield your friends and families from potential threats. Anger. You might feel angry at the perpetrator, angry at politicians for failing to provide enough protection, or higher power for not intervening. Shame or guilt. Ruminating on ways that you could have stopped the shooter, or blaming yourself for what happened, are common reactions to gun violence. Some people even experience survivor's guilt, where you feel guilty for surviving an event that claimed the lives of others. Not only can you be traumatized, but your children and teens can be traumatized by gun violence. Children and teens respond to gun violence in a variety of ways. Infants may cry and scream and be harder to soothe, or they may be more withdrawn than usual and appear to freeze up in certain situations. You might notice changes in their sleeping or eating habits as well. Young children may regress back to habits such as sucking their thumb or bedwetting. If your child is old enough to talk, they might experience nightmares or physical ailments such as stomach aches and headaches. They may have trouble with homework, seem to be moodier than usual, or withdraw from friends, family, and hobbies. When these symptoms occur in teens, they can also be accompanied by drug and alcohol abuse or disruptive behavior at home or school. They might even experience suicidal thoughts. For people of any age, gun violence can result in psychological and emotional wounds that take time to heal. However, here are some strategies to help you and your loved ones cope with the traumatic stress and regain a sense of peace and normalcy in your life. Coping tip number 1, acknowledge difficult feelings. The trauma of being exposed to gun violence can evoke all kinds of unpleasant and surprising emotions. You may feel a sense of rage toward the shooter or society, or guilt or shame. You may feel numb. Know that these reactions are normal, and accepting them is just a part of the healing process. Be patient with yourself. Not everyone heals at the same pace. Don't try to speed up the process or guilt yourself if symptoms seem to linger. If you lost someone to gun violence, recognize that grief can be a long process. Give yourself time and space to mourn. We lost a dear cousin a couple of years ago in Mississippi from gun violence. And it's something that we all, his family, are still grieving. It's been a couple of years, but we're still mourning his death. Connect with your emotions. Rather than suppress your feelings, acknowledge them without judging them for being present. Find healthy outlets. If your emotions are feeling overwhelming, look for ways to express them in healthy ways. Consider opening it up to a trusted friend or family member or talking to a therapist. If you're not ready to share your feelings with someone else, try writing your thoughts down in a journal. Learn about the problem. Aim to gain a thorough understanding of the causes of shootings and possible solutions. What factors inflame the problem? How do different experts propose addressing the issue? What historically has helped curb the violence? What efforts have failed? Gun laws vary by location, so get familiar with your local regulations as well. Find ways to get involved. Push politicians or organizations to take steps to address the problem. Work with local community or political groups. Voice your thoughts online and be willing to have productive conversations. Connect with others. When the world seems violent and unpredictable, you may believe that the best course is just to isolate yourself from people in public spaces. In fact, interviews with gun violence survivors revealed that isolation due to fear of surroundings is a common issue. Positive social interactions flood your brain with hormones that can calm your nervous system and improve your mood. So rather than wall yourself off from others, you're far more likely to find comfort by embracing and expanding your social network. Connect with survivors. Remember that you're not the only one who's coping with the mental health effects of gun violence. Get in touch with others who share your concerns or who are mourning the loss of loved ones. Following a tragedy in your local area, attend memorials and find ways to volunteer to help those in need. Forging a stronger sense of community and uplifting one another can be an empowering experience. Enjoy lighthearted outings. Not all your interactions need to center around guns or trauma. Indulge in social situations that steer you towards the many joys of life. Anything from board games to traveling with friends. You might even feel motivated to make new connections by joining local groups dedicated to your favorite hobbies. Be active. Exercise may not be the first thing on your mind after a tragedy, but being physically active can help you manage stress and enhance your mood. Exercise reduces stress hormones and boosts your body's production of the natural feel-good chemicals, endorphins. In addition to reducing depression and anxiety, aerobic exercise might be helpful in treating some PTSD symptoms. Be mindful. Use your senses to ground yourself in the moment as you exercise. If you're swimming, focus on the feel of the water against your skin. If you're practicing yoga, focus on the pace of your breathing. Mindfulness can reduce stress. Do what you love. You don't have to necessarily start going to the gym. Walk around your neighborhood, dance, playing sports with friends, or all forms of exercise. Aim for at least 150 minutes of moderate exercise or 75 minutes of vigorous exercise each week. It doesn't have to be in a single section. A little physical activity here and there can make a big difference in your mood and outlook. Manage stress. Although you should expect some degree of stress in life, too much stress can have serious physical and mental consequences. Adopt healthy ways to manage your stress. Explore relaxation techniques and reduce your exposure to violent media, news reports, social media posts, and television shows that remind you of gun violence can increase your anxiety over time. Be mindful of how you feel after consuming content. If you feel distressed or overwhelmed, spend less time in front of the screen and look for more engaging activities. Make time for what you enjoy. Sometimes the best way to de-stress is simply embrace activities that make you feel good. Read your favorite book, watch a TV show you love, treat yourself to a soothing walk in the park, spend time with your family. Get enough sleep. From nightmares to difficulty falling asleep, gun violence can disrupt your sleep cycle. This lack of sleep can fuel negative moods and even contribute to mood disorders like depression and anxiety. Try to keep a constant sleep schedule. If you don't get enough sleep the night before, try taking a nap at some time during the day, because that can interfere with your body's internal clock if you don't get enough sleep. Develop a calming evening routine. Don't consume distressing media content before bed. Instead, take a hot bath, read a few chapters in a book, or practice a relaxation technique. Understand how food, drinks, and substances can affect your sleep. Things like sugar, refined carbs, caffeine, and alcohol can all potentially reduce your sleep. You can help your child to deal with gun violence. Know that you are a role model and they will be observing your reaction. Tailor your message to them in a way that's age appropriate. Encourage them to voice their concerns and feelings. Offer reassurance. Help them to find a sense of normalcy and be patient when they grieve. If you continue to have severe difficulty sleeping, eating, feeling depressed, or having thoughts of suicide, then that's the time to seek professional help. Has Mr. Norm joined? Okay, well, I want to thank everyone for listening to the show. Hopefully I've given you some positive tips to help you when you're dealing with gun violence. So I want to wish you all a blessed evening and see you back again in 2 weeks.